right.
We're live.
Good morning. Good morning. It's Wednesday, May 13th, 2026. We're here for the Franklin County Commissioners meeting. I will now call the meeting to order and ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adoption of current agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the agenda with the addition to amend the current agenda to add resolution number 2026-178, amending resolution number 2026-168 to correct a Scrivener's error regarding the property address.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Yes.
There was a, we were going to pull number 5.
Oh. Okay. Mr. Chairman? No.
I just want to say that I am incredibly quick today and on top of everything.
I can see you're in your game, aren't you?
Maybe you should do the 5K run. You're awfully fast. All right, so we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the room for public comment? Please come forward, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is. There you go. Thank you. My name is Christopher Dare. I'm the Executive Director at Columbia Basin Veterans Center. And I want to, first of all, say thank you guys for your support and come on down to that. And we missed you, Rocky, but we thought about you quite a bit. So, I want to invite you to our 5K family 1 mile. There's also a 1 mile walk. Bring your bike, drive your car, whatever you want to do. But we do have at 8 a.m. a ceremony that will happen. One of the things about Memorial Day many times is that people take the day off, which is cool. They might buy a couch or they might do something else, but they forget what Memorial Day is all about. It's about those who have died for the freedoms we have, and we can gather for those freedoms. And so I do challenge the million people watching this from out in their thing to come join us. It's such an important thing. And I also want to tell you it's been a joy working with your staff and talking about some of the different veteran things in the future. We hope to have that chance to work with you guys pretty close, and we're here to serve our veterans in this community and be a partner with you guys. So please feel free to reach out if there's anything we can be a part of in that conversation. But thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Marcy Torres, and it's a great day to be a child of God. And I want everyone to know that this week I attended court. I was court watching. And I sit with families and document any judges that are breaking the law, and I submit complaints to the appropriate agencies. And I'm not asking you for $2 million in funding to do that. I'm doing it because I care. And I want the judges here in Benton and Franklin County to know that their days are numbered. We will continue to hold them accountable. They will not continue to harm our families. And through my research that I have been doing, I have been reading a lot of the protection order declarations that are being filed by a lot of these attorneys. They are literally a copy-paste order that basically every parent that goes to these attorneys, all they do is change the name on them. That's fraud. That's fraud up in the court. And that will not continue to happen. So I want the judges to know that their days are numbered. I have been going to the parks and letting people know, families know what's going on. A lot of these families had no idea that we put these judges in their position. And if they're not following the law, I will make sure that I will let everyone know in this community what they are doing to families. We will not continue to sit around while they tear our families apart. And as far as domestic violence goes, I would like for someone to audit them. I think we need to get a meeting once a week or once a month where they can give us an account of what it is that they're doing. I was sitting in court watching somebody else, and a girl slips a note to me and says, "Can you please stay and watch my hearing because this judge hates me?" And I stayed, and everything went great. When these judges are making over $200,000 a year, why do I have to go and monitor them? I have my own job to do. And they expect us to go and monitor them and to see what laws are being broken as they sit on the bench and acknowledge the fact that they're being monitored and watched. Because I know they have been notified that there's complaints that are being filed. I know this because they disappear from the bench the following week after I filed a complaint. And also, Norma Rodriguez finally recused herself from Mason Pickett's cases after I've been calling her out for months. Why does it take for me to put out the receipts of things they're ignoring behind the bench for them to do the right thing? This is not okay, and it will not be tolerated. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room for public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. I believe part of the problem that she alludes to is some of the laws that are actually made in our state that force lawyers and judges to follow them, or maybe find a loophole, a pattern that works to help them win. I don't know, but I will tell you that when Bob Ferguson is accused and properly served and has to pay a $4,000 fine for misuse of his plane, where there's smoke, there's fire. I think if we recall, there was like a $47.2 or $42.7 million issue with WSU. There was the tuna chicken checks. And the worst part, I believe, in our state right now is the invasion. And all of this does come back to the Constitution and who enforces the Constitution. Well, we have a sovereign of a federal government, we have a sovereign of a state government, and we have a sovereign of county government. And when counties unite together, commissioners, sheriffs, and prosecutors, and they link shields and they enforce the Constitution, there's real power in that. Do you understand that you have 22 sanctuary counties that uphold the Second Amendment in this state? That's a lot. Do you understand that 28 to 32 counties consistently voted right through COVID for Tiffany Smiley over Patty Murray and for Peter Serrano over Nick Brown? The people are speaking. We need our sovereigns to act. And I'm just going to read Article 1, Section 10, Subsection 3. It says, no state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships, or for a time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or foreign power, and that hits our Climate Commitment Act with Canada, or engage in war unless, and here's what's important, unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit delay. When you have millions of people, and we estimate 1.5 million, probably more, in Washington state, that believe they're under the jurisdiction of the United States when they came from another country, they never properly became a citizen, and now they're having babies, and they're going to take those babies and make those the anchors for all the things that we give in the state for citizens. And make no mistake, I want people to be here that can help our farmers, can help our country, but when they abuse it, and you can't even get a job at Burger King because you don't speak Spanish, that's an invasion. And the sovereigns assert that. So May 29th, we're going to be talking about the ongoing case with the sheriffs. I believe the date with the Supreme Court is August 21st. And that's where enforcement is. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room for public comment? there anyone on the phone? Hearing, seeing none, moving on to approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we remove item number 5 from the consent agenda and that we pass items 1 through 4 on the consent agenda.
I'll second that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Regular business, presentation, discussion and presentation regarding the Columbia Valley Center for Recovery, presented by Jason Bliss, Executive Director of WAQRR. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have Mark Kidner with Comprehensive joining me today, just in case you had any questions that I couldn't answer that were pertaining.
You're good.
Okay. There we go. I wanted to come and give you guys an update, if you will, on things happening over at the Columbia Valley Center for Recovery. Things continue to progress over there. Things continue to progress nicely. They were slated to be able to open up on May 1st. However, there were some issues with the Department of Health and the address that was originally listed. When everything was filed with the Department of Health and construction first started, everything was listed with an address over on Auburn Street, which is formerly known as the main entrance to the old Kennewick General Hospital. As a lot of you know, but when all of the dust settled and the remodeling was done, the front door of the facility is now over on 10th Avenue. So they're working to get that updated and completed, and hopefully here very shortly their Department of Health license will be issued to be able to get the facility actually up and open. Hiring continues to go well over there. I was chatting with Mark a little bit before today's meeting. They actually had a job fair over there. Well over 200 people attended that job fair. A lot of interviews were done. So I would expect some job offers will be going out. Will be going out very shortly. Through no fault of you guys, no fault of the Benton County Commissioners, it's tough for an individual like myself who's been involved in this basically since day one for well over 8 years. I will say to watch the smear campaign that individuals in the community continue to do. It's tough for me to sit back and watch because ultimately at the end of the day, it's not government that's being harmed. It's the citizens in our community, in Franklin County and in Benton County. 8 years ago, we had a dream, we had a goal, a small group of us to be able to bring a true wraparound, no wrong door approach where law enforcement officers from both sides of the rivers, where mothers, fathers, significant others could bring their loved ones in their time of need when they needed help. And that's why the Benton Franklin Recovery Coalition and the thought of it was formed. As all of you know, we went out, we fundraised a tremendous amount of money. Benton County contributed some money. Franklin County contributed some money. And we got to the point that we're at today. Benton County is almost to the point with Comprehensive of having an agreement put in place that will assist comprehensive in what I'll call last resort or worst case scenarios. Meaning if an individual goes into the facility, they don't have insurance, they don't qualify for insurance, there is no other funding that's available. There will be a pot of money through Benton County to be able to help those residents so they're still able to be seen there. There's some other ancillary costs, such as when you have a no wrong door approach, sometimes when those individuals come there, they're going to need access to a physician to see if they're going to be able to stay there, to see if they're going to be able to need a higher level of care. And some of those ancillary costs, unfortunately, when individuals can't be covered by insurance, that burden will fall on the counties. As I said, Benton County is real close to having that contract done and negotiated with Comprehensive. I come here today in hopes that Franklin County will take a look at and hopefully is willing to negotiate a contract of some sort with Comprehensive. Working in the housing and behavioral health field for some years, guys, you have very, very good, competent people sitting over here who have the ability to write and execute those contracts. But I come here before you today saying I will make myself available and help in whatever way I can. If it's being a middleman, if it's sitting down to help negotiate, if it's coming up with contract language, whatever has to be done to see to it that a contract can be executed between Franklin County and Comprehensive to be able to provide the services to the individuals here in Franklin County. I was with all of you men here in this room a few years ago when we all met and we were talking about the 1/10 of 1% dollars that were being raised. And the sole purpose behind that was to be able to help with the recovery center. I shouldn't say the sole purpose, but a large amount of that was presented as to be able to help the individuals here in the community for down at the recovery center. I know that the county has been able to raise funds, that there's quite a bit of funds there to help with it. Again, I just come here before you today to offer my support in whatever way that I can to hopefully see us get across that finish line and be able to help the residents of Franklin County. The contract that I speak of doesn't in any way need to be a contract with Benton County. It can be 100% solely a contract that you guys execute yourselves with comprehensive health care to be able to cover those services. At the end of the day, though there are, in my opinion, a lot of things that Franklin and Benton County would probably be better doing together that has worked for 80 years. A contract to provide these services, I think, is something that definitely should be done separately, because they're residents from both your community and from Benton counties. The dollar amount would be different, and I think it would just be best served to do that individually. The last thing that I want to touch on a little bit, there's been, as we know, there's been some talk over the last couple months about the resolution that was signed for the betterments. It's my understanding that 2 payments have been made in regards to the betterments. I want to say there's an outstanding amount of $2,735,000. I understand that there was some apprehension, perhaps because there were some things that maybe the commissioners didn't understand and did not want to put a vote forward for that last payment. Again, if there is anything that is unclear, I hope to be able to clear that up today with myself and Mark. So hopefully a motion can be made by you all, and that can move forward for either positive or negative vote, whatever you guys decide. And with that, if there's any questions, anything that's unclear, I will do my very best to be able to answer it today. I might not have all of the answers for you, but one thing I can guarantee you, I will do whatever I have to do to get those answers for you, for no other reason than the betterment of both of our communities.
Do you have any questions?
Yes. You said Benton County has a fund put together for anybody that comes there that doesn't have the ability to pay. They're putting together a fund to pay for the people that don't have either a Medicaid card or a way of funding that. What happens if these people are from out of the area? Are they still going to fund those people too?
Commissioner Didier, it's my understanding that those dollars, the 0.1%, is where those funds directly are coming from. Mm-hmm. And those funds, it is my understanding, are going to be used solely for the individuals in their community, as that's where those tax dollars were raised.
Just their community?
That is my understanding,
How
yes.
are they going to be able to fully say that they're from their community? I mean, are they going to be able to get an address, or how are you going to be able to determine if they're from your community? That's my whole point, because I have been told by State Patrol, Pasco Police, Franklin County Deputy Sheriff, that they are busing people to this area. They're trying to alleviate their problems, bring them to us. And now we've created a facility that is needed for our community, but we can't deny access to anybody in the state. Everybody has access to this. So we're not guaranteed, if the facility gets full and we have a problem in our community, we're not guaranteed a spot at this facility because of that.
So, Commissioner, you raise a couple very good points, and I'll address the first one on how it is determined where an individual is from. It is my understanding that when services are offered in Benton and Franklin County, through an interview process of figuring out where that person was last, how long they were there, where they were sleeping at last, through a small interview process, at least with Human Services, that's currently where it's decided that they are from. When it comes to busing individuals down here, to be honest, I've heard the exact same things that you have from many people. I've seen it here in our community. A lot of the counties across the state chose not to receive some of the funding that the Benton Franklin Human Services office did. As a result, that word spread like wildfire across our state. And you are correct. I know places up in Seattle that will buy bus tickets just to get individuals down here to the community, because that's where the funding is available. With that said, a lot of the individuals that are getting shipped across the state to various different beds in various different communities, that is happening largely because residents from their own communities are filling up the facilities. My hope here in Tri-Cities, though again, you are correct, when an individual does have the state insurance, they can't be denied to go to one place, whether it's on this side of the county or the other side of the state. And yes, it will happen to some degree. There's no getting around that. But what our hope is here is that with a place right here local in our community, that will be people local in our community will be the ones that will be able to go there and receive the services without having to be shipped clear to the other side of the state, without the family and without the supports that they need.
And then there was I had another question. You said the Department of Health slowed this process down. What was their concern about the building, the Department of Health?
So the Washington State Department of Health is the entity that issues the licensures, if you will, to all behavioral health agencies, inpatient and outpatient, providing substance use and mental health treatment services across Washington State. I don't believe that there was a concern there, if you will. It's just when the original paperwork had got filed, it was under the assumption that the front door of the old Kennewick General Hospital is what was going to be used, which has one address. And at the end of the day, that was switched over to 10th Street, and the address has since been updated. I'm sure, as you men know, in county and state government, nothing seems to move too quick. In my what do I want to say? I would think that it would just be simple to update an address and say, here's a new license, but unfortunately that takes a couple weeks and just doesn't move as quick as we'd want it to.
So it was all about the address?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Not any facility issues, not any deficiencies or anything wrong with the building.
Okay, and then you mentioned that there was 200 people at the job fair. Were a lot of these graduates from CBC that they have added this course to CBC's criteria so that we can have a selection of people to hire here? Were some of them from there, or do you know?
Clint, I can't. I'll defer to Mark a little bit for that question, but I will say, since CBC started that new program, we've got a lot of amazing individuals in our community that have graduated from that program, and a lot of our behavioral health agencies in both Benton and Franklin counties have benefited since that class has been program, I should say, has been reenacted and brought back on.
All righty.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I don't have the exact information to share if they had gone to CBC or not, or what higher education they received. But the majority of the applicants are from the community, with some of the higher level educational requirements, such as the registered nurses or practitioners, advanced practitioners. Some of those might be coming from outside of the area, as we struggle with hiring for those positions, just like any other medical provider in the area does. So, of course, we're looking at filling those positions from community members first.
Excellent. That's all the questions I got.
Okay. Just for clarity on Mr. Deere's question about the turn away no one policy. And you stated that that no one gets turned away as long as they qualify for the state-funded insurance. Is that correct?
Well, if the whole premise and idea behind it for the law enforcement community, or just for the general community in Benton and Franklin counties, our whole thought process behind it was currently the Franklin County Jail and the Benton County Jail both serve as, forgive the expression, defunct mental health facilities. Our jailers inside of there, your jailers here across the water, they don't necessarily have the training to be able to handle and deal with those individuals. A lot of times when law enforcement encounters them out in the field, they don't have any other choice to keep them safe other than to keep them in jail. So again, with this no wrong door approach, it was our goal for all law enforcement on both sides of the water to be able to go over there, rapidly drop that individual off, and get back out in the community without having to spend 8 hours with that individual to get the medical clearance and can be out serving the individuals in our community. And to touch on specifically about the insurance question, Commissioner, again, that is part of it, why Benton County chose to enter into contract with Comprehensive Health, and I'm hoping why Franklin County will choose to do the same, that irregardless of whether that person has insurance or not, through contract in those 0.1% dollars, the insurance question will be null and void. And yes, they will still be able to drop all individuals off over there through that no wrong door approach.
So I understand the no wrong door approach, and I do support that the law enforcement has the ability to drop people off because, like you said, they're not trained for those specific circumstances, and they do spend a lot of time in the hospitals currently watching people they drop off, which ties up our hospital.
Yeah.
I guess I need to reword my question then. So if you come from, let's say, the west side of the state, you're not a citizen of Franklin or Benton County, and you get here and you don't qualify for Medicaid, you don't qualify for Medicare, who picks up the bill?
So there are some funds set aside from what is called the ASO. In our area, that is Greater Columbia Behavioral Health, that does have a small pot of funding available to be able to help individuals from time to time. But again, I'm going to defer to Mark to be able to answer that question more thoroughly, as I don't want to misspeak there.
Yeah, so what Jason's saying is correct. What we would do at the time of admission is go through that interview process that Jason was talking about just a minute ago, and try to verify where their last address is. So if they come from the west side of the state, for example, we would then work to find them a pay source. If there was no known pay source, we'd work through all the different known pay sources that we could, including Medicaid or the Medicaid service organizations. And then if we still can't qualify them for a pay source, then we would go to the ASO or Greater Columbia and look to see if we can get payment for those services through Greater Columbia. If that does not work and they're outside of Benton County or Franklin County, then that would be something that Comprehensive would have to accept as an uninsured payment for that. So in our conversations with Benton County, we understand that we have to make sure that anything that we would be sending to Benton County for payment, they need to truly be a resident of Benton County. We've talked about quarterly audits of that information to assure that we're all on the same page with the residency of those particular clients and the billings associated with that. And so as they get more comfortable with the process that we would have in place to identify those home locations for those residents or those individuals receiving services, we would go through that process with them to assure that they're being billed to the county correctly.
So what is going to determine residency? Because if somebody comes over and they sleep on the street for 3 days, and then they claim that they're from Franklin County, does Franklin County have to pick up that bill?
To my understanding, Commissioner, and this is just from my years of experience in working on various different projects with the Human Services Department. The question is worded something to the effect, where was the last place that you were, I don't know if stably housed is the word, or where is the last place that you truly had a roof over your head? If somebody came in and said, well, I came down here to Benton or Franklin County and I've been sleeping out on 4th and Lewis for the last week and a half, I think that would prompt another question. Okay, where were you before that? Where is the last place that you were stably housed with a roof over your head?
With an address.
With an address.
That's the
yeah.
next question, because even when you go to get your driver's license, you have to show either an electric bill or a post stamped piece of mail with your name and address on it. So I guess those are the questions that I would like to see answered, because if there's a way to get through that process, people, as soon as they hear about it, will use it.
Well, and I will share with you, it will not be a perfect system. There will be individuals that will be out there and they will try to take advantage of, just like with so many of our other social services. But it will not be the intent of the great staff that's over at Comprehensive or that's providing services currently for the homeless of Benton and Franklin County, HRC, to expend or put out any dollars to the best of their ability for individuals that are not from Benton and Franklin County. It's not, the whole idea and the whole premise behind here is everybody is going to do the very best that they can in an imperfect world to fund the individuals from their respective counties without having to bear the burden of individuals from outside of those respective counties. But again, unfortunately, it's not a perfect system, but I do feel that we've got great professionals in place that are going to do their very best to be able to sort that out.
Yes, Mr. Dan.
Commissioner Bauman wanted to ask me to relay that he really very badly wanted to be here. He's in the hospital with his wife and was unable to attend. And I wanted to get that out there on the record because he asked me to read that for the record. Thank you. Appreciate you coming over here. And I really appreciate what you had to say regarding the there's been a lot of narratives out there that I think are that are unfair and just blatantly inaccurate. And so I appreciate your showing up today and being able to answer these questions.
I guess just a question, if I may, for obviously you guys as commissioners have been in support of this, have been in support of the recovery center, have been in support of helping the individuals here in your community to be able to get the help that they need. Is there anything further that I can do as a citizen or as the chairman of the Joy County Behavioral Health Group? Is there anything further that we can do to assist in getting it to come to fruition where Franklin County can go into contract or under contract with Comprehensive to be able to get this thing moving forward? Because again, guys, I don't want you guys to have to make a decision with any uncertainty. I don't want questions left unanswered. I know that there's a willingness to help because I've heard of that from all of you. I just want to help and do whatever I've got to do to be able to get us across that finish line.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't feel it's prudent to make the decision today without the full board being here.
Actually, Commissioner Bauman asked if we could not take any official action until he comes back, so that goes hand in hand.
We all realize the need, and obviously, both Mr. Didier and myself were on the board when we voted in the 1/10 of 1%. So we do support it. We just have questions and want to have a solution or a better understanding of how things are going to get paid and who's going to be responsible for them.
Would it be of any help if I was to come up with a draft contract and a draft starting point to give to Councilman Briggs to start to review, and then perhaps you guys could make edits from there? Would it be of any help at all?
I don't think that we need any help on drafting a contract. I think there's two issues at play. It's the betterments, and then it's whether we're going to contract with Comprehensive. So I think there's a couple things that have to be considered. On the betterment side of things, the truth of the matter is we were just confused, I think, because I think the whole entire board unanimously supported funding the betterments, but then we received a letter from across the river that said, nope, we want to go it alone. you know, we don't want to deal with Franklin County any longer. So it's very confusing. Since then, we've gotten clarification. They do want the money. They do want us to participate. And so, like I say, I think that there's just a couple of different aspects there, but I would trust Jeff and myself to be able to work with Comprehensive on a contract if that's what the Board of Commissioners desire. As it pertains to betterments, I think that the betterments is a slightly different issue and one that I don't want to speak for the board, but I think the board has indicated and told me that they were quite supportive of the idea of that. We were just confused on that letter that we got. So I think that's, the betterments, I think, is less of an issue. I think that it's going to take the gentleman sitting down and considering whether they want to enter into a contract with Comprehensive before we move forward. But I do thank you for your being here and for being what I believe is a voice of reason and somebody that is not about pointing fingers. So I really very much appreciate you.
The pointing fingers and mudslinging does absolutely no good for anybody. I'll be the first to say here from any party involved. It does nothing to help the process. And I realize that tensions can get raised, that people have various different opinions on things, and people choose to exercise their right to voice those opinions. But just in my opinion, things can probably be done in a much more constructive manner, if you will. And again, if there's more, Commissioner Mullen, if there's more questions or things that are not answered, I'm willing to give my time in any way possible. If direct communications aren't possible, with whatever reason between parties, I'm willing to go back and forth and sit here in front of you men as many times as I have to get all of those answers back to you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Didier.
So you mentioned Benton County has an ASO fund. What does that acronym stand for?
Associated Service Organization?
Yes, and it's not Benton County alone, it's the region, and they serve the region all the way to, I think, Walla Walla, Columbia, as well as Benton, Franklin, Yakima counties.
So each of those county governments are supplying funds to this in some way or another?
No, that's directly from the state of Washington to the ASO, and then the state of Washington directs the ASO, saying how much can go into each specific category, and then it's up to the ASO to figure out how to disperse those funds.
Do you know how much they currently have in that fund?
I do not know that dollar amount, no.
Because our concern is this. We see this economic turn in our economy right now. We have Franklin County is big in agriculture. Agriculture is hurting right now. We have constituents that are concerned about the future, and we don't want to tie them down to something that we're going to be taking care of the whole state on. We want to take care of our community.
Yeah.
And with the laws that are in this state and the soft on crime that's going on in this state, we can't just be, hey, piggy bank to every need of this state when the state is creating the problem. We have to get this state turned around, because all we're going to do is just, sadly to say, we're going to milk the cow dry, and there will be no more funds. People are hurting right now, and that's our biggest concern, is we don't want to strap them with another responsibility that we can't afford. That's our concern, and we want to make sure we have clarity on this situation before we get in with a contract with Comprehensive. We want to know all the details so that we have made a wise decision for our community members. We don't want to put our community our county in a bad situation. So we're being very cautious.
Commissioner, I looked it up just for a point of clarification. It's a Behavioral Health Administrative Service Organization. And for our area in our region, that I believe starts maybe Columbia and perhaps all the way up past Yakima, is Greater Columbia Behavioral Health
Yes.
here in Kennewick.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you. Do appreciate it. And like I said, I don't think there's any issue with the betterment. It's just, we want to make sure that the residents of Franklin County are not paying for people outside of our community and then pushing our residents further down the list as far as availability to get help. That makes sense.
No, and it does. I mean, you guys are representatives of this county. You are a representative of the city, and you need to be good stewards of the money. I fully understand that. And also at the same time, I fully believe that everything is going to be done on Comprehensive's part to thoroughly screen and I'd be able to identify the individuals from this county that need the help. Again, unfortunately, it's not a perfect system, but at the same time, I don't believe that anyone Comprehensive, as they sit here with me today, there are going to be cases with individuals from outside of our area that they're simply going to have to absorb those costs because they're not going to qualify as a last resort for the Franklin County funding or the Benton County because they're simply not going to be from this area. I think we just have to have good faith that they're going to do the best ability that they can be able to do to identify the people from the correct counties. I don't want to speak for them, but I mean, if there were additional steps, perhaps to work on that identification process of where individuals were from, perhaps that could even be included in the contract to try and remedy that a little bit. But again, it's not a perfect system, but I think people are going to do their very best to be able to identify those individuals in the county that they're from.
Well, the busing is a serious issue.
I'm sorry?
The busing, the west side sending
Yeah.
their people over here.
Also Spokane. I've heard they're coming down from Spokane.
In Stevens County, there's homeless camps and I don't believe any of those people are from Stevens County. But they were bused and sent in there for them to deal with. And I'm sure that it's going on other places as well. And I guess it concerns me that we might get flooded by people being bused in here. So.
And I'm not going to sit here and take away from how things are, because unfortunately across our state, the amount of homelessness, the amount of camps that we see set up, the amount of individuals sleeping on the doorsteps of businesses, of courthouses, and various different places. I'll just be frank, a lot of our laws in Washington State are what got us to that point.
Amen.
All we can do at the end of the day is to try our very best to be able to right, in my opinion, some of the wrongs and some of the laws that were passed. But also at the same time, while we're working on that, we've got to find a way to be able to take care of the individuals in our community and get them the help that they need.
I agree with that. So, anyways, thank you for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
If we
Thanks
get
for the
any
update.
questions, we'll get in contact with you.
Okay.
So give us some time to.
Thank you all for your time today.
Yep, thank you. I appreciate it. Moving on, presentation B, Facilities 250th Anniversary Project and Departmental Status Update, presented by Tim Kelly, Director of Facilities. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Appreciate the time today to present some of the things that we are working on and some upcoming projects. The first one that we'd like to talk about today is the celebration of 4th of July for our 250th. And in the slideshow, we'll have some decorating plans. If approved, we'd like to begin the decorating the week of June 1st to not have overlap of the important holiday right before that, but also to showcase the well, I would consider one of the most beautiful courthouses in the state of Washington, for a full month. Oh, yeah. And then I'd also like to recognize Fenny, Ashley, and Shauna for the help in creating these plans and organizing our decorating, and their creativity and teamwork have been greatly appreciated by myself. In the plans, you'll see pictures of the areas that we would like to decorate, and then we are requesting funds up to but not to exceed $2,500. That's not all in the supplies, but that would also provide extra funds if we wanted to do a community event, if approved, to where the community would know what we're doing and be able to come in and look at our beautiful courthouse with the decorations. So in the first slide would be the outside of the courthouse, where you can see the banners and some of the additions there. Primarily, we're keeping everything on the courthouse. What's not in the picture here, we would also have red, white, and blue lighting going up in the evening, which I think would be just absolutely fantastic for in the evening hours. And then also just because of the wind and traffic out front, we left everything towards the courthouse just to preserve it for the month long decorating. This would be the inside of our courthouse. The one exception here is our picture shows more of a fountain with flowers. Obviously, that it would maintain what is currently down there with our current display, but decorated in those colors. And then with the lighting and the banners, I think would be very classy and not overshadow the beautiful architecture of our courthouse, but just highlight the obviously the holiday that we're going to be celebrating for the 250th. And then our last slide, I thought this was a fantastic idea. So most of our citizens will be coming through the guard shack out front and decorating that with those would be faux flowers just for watering needs in the Tri-Cities. Would be a little difficult there. So, but it would just add some color and some decorating there. And then I think the really cool point here is the poster celebrating what the 250th is and some of the importance behind the Independence Day celebration right there on the banner there as we're coming into the courthouse to help educate the citizens and just showcase some of the really neat highlights of this great country. On the last slide is a rough breakdown of where the associated costs would go towards funding this. Was not included there. In that would be roughly the $800 that we are asking over the supplies. If we wanted to do a community event where we invite people in and maybe do something like a pin that would commemorate the 250th as well as Franklin County and just make some more social awareness of what we're doing down here and invite our citizens to come look at our beautiful courthouse. Any questions about the current plans and some of our decorating plans there?
I have no questions. It looks beautiful.
Yeah. Good
Excellent.
job.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'd like to now move on to some of the current projects that we have within facilities. The first one that we have is we are working on our grant submissions this month. Most of them for the historic courthouse that we would qualify are due in July. So my goal is over the next 2 weeks to come up with proposals that then I will be present to the commissioners for approval prior to submitting for those requests. Some of them will be hand in hand with some improvements that will help us in our future for energy savings, such as possible lighting upgrades and windows, but I'll have that finalized in the next couple of weeks. The second thing that we will be scheduling that will be pretty publicly seen, if you will be our annual deep cleaning of the courthouse on the exterior. We are honestly setting up the timing to help go with the decoration. So 2 weeks before we plan on decorating, but not to interfere with the Memorial Day holiday, we'll be power washing and cleaning the exterior of the courthouse as well as the rest of the campus here using a boom lift and power washer in order to help clean and get it back up to the pristine shape that it is this time of year after we've finished the cleaning. The third major project that we're continuing to work on is building out office space for the juvenile court. We have already submitted our plans to the city of Pasco I fully, based on their timelines, would anticipate having that approval by Monday of this month, or sorry, of the next Monday. Prior to that, though, we have already established and have our contractors coordinated, as well as prep is completed in that space. So when we get the permit approved, we can start with the construction and moving forward. And we've already secured a lot of our supplies to be as timely as possible once we get that permit approved and moving forward. Some ongoing initiatives for myself. One of my major ongoing initiatives is cross-training our team so staff members can perform multiple functions and respond more effectively to our facility needs. One of the things I'd like to do today is just thank Michael for his partnership in my onboarding and helping me with my learning plan over the last 7 weeks. A recent example that I'd like to showcase would be the implementation of our flooring install, where we did some flooring up in the vault to help accommodate some extra office spaces. We had one individual that knew how to and was very proficient in flooring. By the end of that project, every single staff member is now capable of installing flooring. And the one individual that I like to showcase is just Doug's enthusiasm in learning that process, and the amount of ownership he had in putting that last square down in the vault there to have the final process done. And in the future, that'll obviously help us with, many other projects within the facilities and not having to hire externally. Additionally, one of the other things that we have done over the last 7 weeks, it was brought up actually by Commissioner Bauman that we had a couple of repairs needed on the roof. Eric was able to find a local within our county commercial roofing company that we had partnered with, and because we were purchasing the patches, they walked him through a tutorial of exactly how to repair the roof, which then he was able to relay that information to everyone on the team. So now everyone is proficient to safely and effectively do minor repairs on the courthouse and know where to go to find the right and proper materials based on the different membranes that we have throughout the county. Just a couple of examples that I like to showcase on what my goals are to help keep costs down and be more fiscally responsible for the citizens of Franklin County. Under other maintenance and improvements, we're also continuing to improve on how we are using our CMMS system to its full potential. That system is how we track work orders to set up what we would call preventive maintenance as opposed to reactionary maintenance. So there's a system where someone can say, hey, this needs done. That's reactionary. My goal is to get to more of an 80-20%, where 80% of the work is preventive by doing walks and looking for things that can be repaired prior to it being a problem, which reduces cost. Bailey on our team has done an outstanding job dedicating several hours to organizing and setting up our preventive maintenance system in that program, to where now we have weekly, monthly, and yearly PMs that are auto-populating with instructions on how to complete that work within our team. It's been a huge benefit to myself and to our team to schedule workload and plan it out with the goal of reaching that 80% in the future. One of the things that I think everyone will be pleased to hear today is our Clean Buildings Act compliance that we have been working on. This is one of the things that has been ongoing with our vendor, Custom Energy, and they have committed to me as of yesterday that they'll have the report to us this week, and they fully anticipate once we present it to Brian for approval that there will be next to zero issues that we have to fix prior to being signed off through the state of Washington and the Department of Commerce, which is fantastic news. That gives us roughly 6 years to work on improvements that they help identify during that report to then get to the next stage of the Clean Buildings Act. So I think that's fantastic news. And Brian, as soon as I get that, I'll present that to yourself as well. In closing, one of the things I would like to just reiterate, our goal as a facilities team since I took over and had this great opportunity a little over 7 weeks ago is really to proactively address and course correct issues within the county before they become more financially impactful and really helping to educate our team on the fiscal responsibility that we have to our community and our taxpayers. And so every decision we make is with that in regards to preserving our beautiful courthouse and buildings while also being fiscally responsible to our taxpayers, and the importance of understanding that every single dollar comes from a tax of some sort that comes into this county. And that's a big initiative of mine and something that's near and dear to my heart in running the facilities department. Those are the major updates that I have for today, gentlemen. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to help answer those at this time.
All right, questions?
No questions, just a comment. Great job in 7 weeks. You're doing a fantastic job. Keep it up. I love the decorations for the courthouse.
Thank you, Mr. Didier.
Yes, thank you for your time coming in today, and great job. It looks very impressive. And did you do the work down at the election center?
We had a huge part in that. We're happy to say that's one of the projects. I left out completed projects, but that one's about 90% complete.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
Very updated from what it was.
Thank you.
So, thank you for a great job. Thank you for
And one last thing. Thank you. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for the consideration of the taxpayers, because, it's going to get more and more difficult. We haven't seen the roughest times yet in this economy. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But thank you.
Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Have a good day. Presentation, Information Services Departmental Status Update presented by Bo Buckley, Director of Information Services. Good morning, Bo.
Good morning, Commissioners. So there's several projects that we could cover. I figure I'd keep it limited today to spare you some time, and we can cover those later if you want to. So overall, department operations are stable, and key focuses are on cybersecurity, infrastructure, risk management, and of course, customer service. During my brief today, I'm going to be making sure you're aware of some of the risks that we're facing currently, and looking for your direction on next steps where board action may be needed in the future. So the first brief item I wanted to bring up to your attention, and I'll keep it simple just because I don't want to get into cybersecurity too much today. But we've had, as you're aware, an increase in malicious email attacks against county employees. We're observing risks where users are forgetting training practices, and we have remediation processes that we're working on to work against that. We're working on some training to teach the users how to pause, verify, and report malicious emails so that we can avoid passing that on to the next agency. We've had 6 different instances in the last 3 weeks where agencies from Prosser, Grays Harbor, City of Pasco, and some unions, just to name a few, that are trusted sources sending us malicious email because they've been compromised from an email they opened the links and put in passwords and all of that good stuff. So we're looking to bring back our previous training platform. We had a robust platform previously. When we moved to Office 365, we kind of had a redundant system. So we peeled back the previous system because we thought we were saving some budget dollars. It's apparent to us now that there's more risk now to having let go of that previous system. And so I will be approaching you guys in later commissioner meetings with a resolution if it's in fact your guys' direction that you want to restore that previous system. That previous system was called Barracuda Fish Line. Why does it matter? It simplifies reporting, it improves response times, and it makes it visible for staff members to identify, report, and just when you're not sure, ask, right? So my request today for this briefing is just board awareness and just your support in considering bringing back that previous product. We're waiting for a quote still. I've been working with our administrator in these discussions. we're looking roughly around $5,000 to bring the solution back. Later on in my brief, I'll also talk about some grant opportunities that may be able to fund this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Barracuda, what was this
Fish line.
fish line?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. The second item I'd like to cover today is infrastructure related. Our server capacity, this is physical versus virtual. We've had some premature failures of our equipment this year. Think of it as your car. Sometimes your car just runs for a long time with good maintenance. Other times you're not so lucky. We've had premature failure on 2 of our servers this year that we've had to turn down. That reduces our capabilities of being able to move things around as we start up new departments or as we just try to keep everything current on updates. I am fully aware of our condition with the budget. This is another item of which we have previously, and I'll add successfully, worked with state grant programs to get servers replaced, as long as we can make a good enough cybersecurity case out of that. We are in progress. We are helping the juvenile courts start up their department, and we stood up a new server with them earlier this week. We're working with their vendors to stand up the software solutions they'll need for the juvenile tracking. And so that really squeezes us on the available space that we have, both physical and just hardware limitations. So again, what I'm asking for today is just board awareness that the replacement, the expansion may become urgent if there is another failure. Normally we would ask for that through the budget process. But again, as I spoke earlier, later on in my presentation, there is a grant opportunity that if you guys want to, we can pursue those avenues. The third brief that I'd like to bring back, we had a communications last week, the week before, about the tower site leases and the ownership. We have towers and generators at Connell, Clotis, and a site that we call Jump Off Joe. And we do have a site lease with Harder Farms on Clotis. As the microwave and radio system migrates over to CCOM, BCS, we still own the towers and we still own the generators that are supporting those systems. And with that, we have a certain amount of risk. So everything they put on that tower, if we have a failure with that tower, it becomes Franklin County's risk. The generator's equipment, if that wears down, if that breaks, if it needs maintenance, it's ours. We're responsible for keeping that stuff running. So my purpose of bringing this up today is just the consideration of, do we want to transfer that responsibility of those assets to BCS, to CCOM?
Yes, I do.
So we'd be looking to work with, probably through Brian, to make sure that we get everybody in track and probably put together a resolution and take action on what we want to do.
Yeah, I think Council Briggs might weigh in here. We probably need to follow our surplus policy, our county property management ordinance policy. So, yeah, that we'll be able to effectuate the change if the board wishes to go that route. Absolutely.
Okay.
I agree.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
what kind of, I know we've, on the CCOM, it was 7 million. What kind of money is on these towers if something was to happen that we would have to pay for?
I would have to get that information collected, and I can provide that to you. We were talking about radio dishes. You're talking about lighting systems for planes.
Right.
I don't know the full extent of all the equipment that has been put up there by BCS through the radio microwave project.
So even an act of nature, we'd be responsible for it. A
Correct.
lightning strike.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've repaired that stuff last year or the year before. These high winds that we're experiencing today, they're pretty strong winds just where we're at. up on those mountaintops, they're even more powerful and they damage equipment.
Power just went out in Connell.
Yes. And it's still out. We're running on generator right now.
So I'm in favor of pursuing this.
Yes.
Franklin County don't need to be taking the responsibility of, basically, I've been saying it's an outdated system. We really need to be looking at the next avenue, the future, and that is these low-hanging satellites with cell phone radios, because there are areas all over the United States that are going to them already, and I thought we should have been going to them instead of doing this. So I don't want to take responsibility for these things, what's on our tower.
I agree.
Real quick here. So, you gentlemen both agree to that?
Yes.
Council Briggs, that would probably be best taken with a motion and a second in addition to the agenda, correct?
Yes, amending the agenda, adding an action item, and then voting on it.
Just so that we can make sure that it's right, if you wouldn't mind doing that.
And it would just be a simple motion to remove the responsibility of Franklin County of the apparatuses they're putting on the towers?
So there's consideration of transferring the assets to the agency who is going to be maintaining the equipment.
So that needs to be in the motion, to transfer the responsibility to CCOM.
Yes, in addition to, we need to determine what we want to do with the lease that we are managing with the Colotus site for Harder Farms. We could either continue managing that, which has, it's a cost, it's reimbursed by 3 different self-providers. There's not much of a monetary value out of those leases. The recommendation for me would be to work with a consulting firm to reach out to BCS and to the 3 providers that are on that tower to coordinate BCS.
How about if we put this on next agenda's meeting and we get it right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because we
want to
need
make
to
sure
find
we
out the
understand.
monetary value that's out there and leases.
I think that's a good call, and that would have been a really long motion.
Yes. So any questions on that, I will definitely work with the administrator to make sure you guys have the information you need to make the proper decision. But definitely as that project winds down here towards the end of the month and at the end of June, we definitely want to keep in step with removing our risk, is my recommendation.
All right. Any further questions? Yes, Mr. Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing that I'd like to say is that that Jamie in IS has put together an incredible reservation system. IS also had a not sick leave, but a paid time off app that they were able to create. And so they're also creators. They create things for us. And so this is going to be helpful when it comes to the motor pool for being able to check vehicles in and out. And I wanted to thank both Bo for your leadership and also Jamie for putting that together and everybody that worked on it, because it's pretty impressive.
Yes, we definitely have some very talented staff.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One last thing, Bo. You said that 5,000 for the email, that could also be a grant. Are you guys going to, and the second one was the servers? Mm-hmm. So are you going to pursue those grants immediately, or have you already put in for them?
I intend to bring that up a little bit later in the presentation because there is a grant opportunity, and I'll be asking for your guys' approval to move forward with that.
Yes, I'm in favor of that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. With that, then I'll move on to my next item, which is kind of a follow-up to our ADA website compliance. All of our websites that are managed in-house are compliant. Our websites that are managed by third-party providers are underway. It is a slow-moving process, but we are moving through that. Many of our third-party providers have already fixed their websites. We still have several that they're working through ours as well as many other customers. And so the deadline was April 24th of last month. That very day, they extended it an additional year because of all the hardships being reported by counties, agencies, local governments that had populations over 50,000 people. So we were in a pretty good place, not exactly where I wanted to be on that deadline. We're not just leaving it. We're not waiting for the next deadline. We're pushing on our vendors consistently. We're making plans to meet with them monthly to give them the space they need to update it properly, but to make sure that it's not falling off the back burner as well. We're also going to be creating some training for the users. So those departments who generate a lot of documents, as our clerk creates the agenda, the PDFs, training so that all of those new documents coming out are already ADA compliant as we publish moving forward, because that'll be our biggest hurdle moving forward to stay compliant. Our court dockets, our jail inmate lists, all of those different tasks that are generated every day, we want to get the users trained so that they know, and then we're not constantly mopping this up. We're fixing it while we're mopping it up. That brings me down to our state local cybersecurity grant. Do you mind, Administrator? So we have received a notice of funding opportunity, which is being passed out to you right now. This is the state local cybersecurity grant program. We have utilized this in previous years. We've applied for it last year. We did not receive anything last year because there was a regional project that won the bid, and we will be participating in that with Kennewick later this year for a tabletop exercise. This funding has previously been it was an 80-20 split, and then I think it's a 60-40 split. I will find out on Friday when they have the WebEx where they'll be sharing all the information. We would have to have an application in by the 12th of June, which is just a little bit less than a month away, where I have participated in this 4 times. So I'd like to say I'm a little seasoned in applying for the grant opportunities with these. I'd like to use it to get the fish line. It may not be in time for the fish line because they will not give awarding until almost December. And if I can be frank, we kind of need to do something sooner about our email security than waiting until December. Just as I said, I believe I said earlier, we've had 6 instances where we've got people clicking on emails, putting in usernames and passwords, and we're having to lock those accounts out until we can get everything remedied. So there are other opportunities where we can apply for this grant. There's $5 million available to the state. This does go through the Washington State Emergency Management Program. So I guess my ask is, do we have your approval to go ahead and proceed with this grant? Is this the proper way to request that?
I don't believe that any department needs to request applying for a grant. In fact, I'll just say right now for the record, pretty pleased with Sugar on Top. All departments apply for all grants that you can apply for.
Sounds good. Well, if there's not any questions, then I'll go ahead and I'll close out. I'm happy to provide more details on any of these things. If you guys would like more information, whether I can answer them now, I can answer them later, or if you want me to work with our administrator, I can provide you information through that route as well. Thank you.
No, thank you. Well, I appreciate it. And unless Mr. Didier has any questions.
Just one on the Barracuda fish line. Until we get that, hopefully through a grant, you were talking about doing education. I know as far as when I go down to my emails, when I clean them up, if I don't recognize them, I just delete them.
I wish that was the case.
I only look at the ones that I know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
I will not open up anything that I don't know about. And I think that's what everybody's got to do is extreme caution right now, because this is a heightened activity right now in our communities.
And it's being observed by our agencies in the region. So the one yesterday came from a chief at the city of Pasco, whom several people at this agency works with them on a daily basis. And had they done a little bit more scrutiny against that, they would not have clicked on it.
So it did come from somebody they knew, but the
These are
email,
sophisticated emails. They are not just, the prince of some country, saying you've got money, just click here. These are definitely sophisticated attacks.
All right, thank you, Bill.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate it. Thanks for all the good work. Resolution 2026-177, Juvenile Court Reclassification of the Juvenile Court Specialist, presented by Brittany Roski, Juvenile Court Administrator. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. Commissioners, I am here just to try and do a reclassification of a position from the original proposal. This was a proposal that was done prior to me being hired 3 weeks ago. And looking over the scope of the job duties, that one really didn't match up with what we're going to need here at our juvenile court. What was proposed was a juvenile court associate, and that's really your entry-level secretary, if you will. That still incredibly important, but it's more of the initial process. And as you know, we have a very complex, difficult court here. We have truancy, we have at-risk youth, we have guardian ad litem, we have the whole probation piece. There is also a detention piece in that. And we need someone who can do the work from beginning to end. We're only going to have 2 legal process staff, and so we really need both of them to be that more of that specialist level in order to be able to do all of the duties that our court will see. I do think that this is important. It's going to be crucial for the functioning of the court. They're going to be a huge asset to me in being able to run court. They're going to be the ones that are actually in there. They're assisting the commissioners or judges. They're also creating the files for probation or truancy, at-risk youth. They see it from beginning to end, from intake to probation violations, if you will, and then the closures. And that comes with every department that we have within the juvenile court.
So are you reclassifying or are you adding a position?
It's reclassifying. So right now, it was a court associate when we were given 2 of those at a grade 4. And I worked with HR and legal to go over the new job duties that we're really going to need here. I took some of the things that were being done in Benton County and really combined about 3 positions to make it tailored to what Franklin County is going to need. And so then it would be just reclassifying it to a court specialist at a grade 5.
so one of those positions will be moved to a grade specialist, right?
No, it would be both positions
Oh,
that are.
both positions are going to be moved.
Yes, as the
Okay.
court associates. And the reason being is because we really do only have 2. So think about coverage. If you have one person out, you need someone who's going to be able to
Yeah.
step in and do that work. And court isn't going to stop.
Right.
And so we need to have both of them being able to be trained in all of the same job duties.
So they'll both be a grade 5.
Yes. And at this time, I'm not asking for additional funding for this. It's going to depend on how we go through the hiring process, but I think that there's going to be a way to absorb that cost. So for this, I'm not asking for additional money in the budget.
I thought that this was a $35,000 5-year fiscal impact to the county. Did I read that wrong?
So I'm saying right now for this year's budget, I'm not
Okay.
asking.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right, questions? Hearing none.
This is the budget.
Okay.
I apologize.
So it does have a 5-year financial impact of $35,910.
Correct.
But We're going to need this for our juvenile, so. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of Resolution 2026-177, Juvenile Court Reclassification of Juvenile Court Specialist.
Second. Discussion. You said the positions that are currently there are basically just like a secretary?
So we have, there's a variety right now. You have the court associate, that you have a court specialist, you have a legal associate, and they all kind of do different things because it's intense. There's a lot to it, and so we're trying to combine all of those different duties that you essentially have 5 or 6 different people doing and combining that into 2.
The
Did I answer
2
your question?
positions that you already have, you're reclassifying them into 2 positions that are going to do everything.
Correct.
And one of those positions has to be there. And so they both need that same classification is what I've got out of this. So if one was missing, then we're not missing a beat. We're going to move on with court. Everything happens.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion.
We got a motion and a second.
And a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I just want to say I appreciate you understanding and being flexible. I think the proposal was given to you and was given a lot of thought. I've taken a lot of consideration and worked through things in the last 3 weeks, and I'm really trying to look at exactly what we need. I want this to be successful. I want it to be a juvenile court that Franklin County can be proud of. I want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our youth and our families. That is incredibly important to me. And so I also want to say that you have some incredible staff here. Your IS department has been wonderful. Bo and all of his staff have been bending over backwards to try and get us. We have very different systems that no one else uses. And to try and get all those on board is a tall order in a very, very short amount of time. So I just want to let you know that they are fantastic. Also in the commissioners, Jen and Teresa have been wonderful. They've been helping me through things. I'm kind of on an island here by myself, and so having some support has been great. And then Tim Kelly in facilities has also been great. These are people who didn't really sign up for this, and they're getting some marching orders to get things done quickly, and I really appreciate them. So,
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Danzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to start, I was originally going to go just through with my weekly update, but there was a article in the digital version of the Tri-City Herald this morning regarding a bunch of the different issues between the 2 counties. And so I thought I would do a little explanation on kind of where we stand because there were so many inaccuracies. The kind of the main thrust of the deal was that we weren't wanting to work together. It was very, in my opinion, it was bent towards favoring Benton County and making us look like we were just out of our minds. And so to just clarify, one of the issues that was brought up is that Commissioner Didier had mentioned public health districts and eventually someday having our own public health district. In the article, you would believe that the sky is falling, but I want the public to know, and this is my only forum for this because the author of the article never reached out to me and has stopped running my quotes at the Tri-City Herald. So I guess we just do this. But 32 out of the 39 counties have their own health district. In fact, Franklin County is the only county with a population of greater than 100,000 to not have its own public health district, just as a clarifier. And also as a clarifier, our growth rate surpasses the other multiple county districts combined. So Franklin County's growth rate is bigger and faster and more than if you added up, like I said, Ferry, Stevens, Pondere, Douglas, Chelan, Grays Harbor, and Pacific County. In those, the populations of those areas I just mentioned, Ferry's got 7,500, Stevens 50,000, Pondere 14,000, Douglas 45,000, Chelan 80,000, Grays Harbor 75,000, and Pacific is a population of around 23,000. And so again, Franklin County is the only county in the state over 100,000 that doesn't have its own public health district, and it was kind of a bummer that that wasn't put in there. Also, it was reported, and I think this ties to the lack of getting a phone call or wanting to run any of my quotes, but it was reported in the Herald that we do not have a human services department, which I'm sure is a real, you guys are going, what? Because we do have a human services department. We have a human services director in Edgar Vega, as well as our AHR staff that has gained approval and already started the process of posting and hiring positions for that department. And because I know that everyone places a high premium on accuracy, I thought that it'd be good to let that be known through this forum, as the Herald never, like I said, reaches out to me. Kind of one of the issues that I wanted to bring up is it's not in paper print, because when McClatchy went bankrupt in 2020, they stopped doing daily newspapers in person, and they all went to pretty much digital, with a couple sprinkled in here and there that are paper. But one thing that I think is important to keep in mind, and just as a side note, the Herald is the paper of record for Benton County. So that means that the Herald receives all the legal advertising dollars for the entire budget year, actually biennium, because they do a 2-year budget over in Benton County. So these are things that never make it into the newspaper, and I don't get phone calls, and they won't run my quotes. So I wanted to just be able to say that on the record. One of the things that we were accused of was the lack of transparency, and I find that laughable, given the fact that Franklin County was the first, I believe, county in the entire state to record and have a YouTube channel and leave them all up there. And I think we're more transparent than any county in the entire state, whereas other counties, Benton County in particular, doesn't record, doesn't have a YouTube channel. They have audio files that you can listen to, and it makes it very much more difficult, actually, to participate in their government. And so anyway, I just wanted to be able to fight back on that, because it appears no reaching out, not taking my quotes. In my opinion, it feels like, I'm not saying this, but I'm saying it feels like the Tri-City Herald is the PR arm of Benton County. So I just wanted to make everybody aware that we do have a human services department. Every other county over 100,000 has their own public health district. We're not from planet Mars or planet Neptune. And I would submit to you that I believe that a very, very high reason for all of this happening is Franklin County is a Hispanic majority population county, and we receive funding and grant funding because of that. And when we go our own direction on certain things, when I read anything in there about this and that and commissioners weighing in on issues in Franklin County, I've never seen you commissioners weigh in on an issue in Benton County. It makes it easy to do my job. I got to thank you for that. But those are all things that I think are worthwhile reporting to you gentlemen on. Now, as it comes to my update, I'd like to say that I met with Council Briggs and Council Lloyd to discuss various items. I met with Ms. Isom to discuss various items, including the Human Services department that doesn't exist evidently, and Juvenile Services. I met with you gentlemen to discuss the agenda, as well as ongoing efforts and goals. Met with the accounting staff and the auditor's office to discuss our financial position. I attended the SAT meeting in Richland at the Richland City Council chambers. Was informed, but we haven't received yet. Maybe we have in the meantime, that the city of Pasco signed the jail ILA and will be sending it our way. So that's been an outstanding thing for some time that we're very thankful that we were able to get to closure on. And then finally, I met with Judge Orozco and OPD Director Larry Ziegler regarding a workshop on indigent defense. I know that I saw Judge Orozco earlier. I don't see her now, but Judge Orozco and both Larry Ziegler are committed to stepping up and coming and doing a workshop and trying to figure out how we can best work together. Right now, I will say, Council Briggs could back me up on this actually, but OPD and Prosecutor Sant have a really great working relationship, and they work together to try to see if there's any ways that they can, offset some of these insane caseload mandates from the Supreme Court. But so it's already in place, and Sean Prosecutor Sant has been doing an incredible job in communicating with OPD. But we've got these other areas where I think we need to bring them in, and so we'll be working through that to try to set up a workshop for you all, that we can have all the players in the room and talk about it. And Commissioner Didier, I know that you've talked about a district, like an OPD district, and maybe that's the place that we broach that subject. Anyways, gentlemen, I'm sorry about being mouthy and wordy there with my update, but again, it really bothers me when there's so many just complete blatant falsehoods and inaccuracies, and there's not even a reach out, or they won't run my quotes as I say them, or at all now. So I think that it's pretty obvious, in my opinion, that it's pretty slanted in one direction. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Didier.
Yes, so with that, as the Tri-City Herald is Benton County's official newspaper, our official newspaper is the Franklin County Graphic. And if you want to know what's going on in Franklin County, then you need to read the Franklin County Graphic. It's printed in Connell. Second, Jeff Briggs, I know we've looked into this before, but could you please do some research on, is there a chance or an opportunity for counties to come together as a district for OPD, so we don't compete in buying each other's representation? That's one thing I'm asking you to just do some research and see if it's been done in any other state, if it's been done in our state, and possibly if we could do that with some surrounding counties, we can stop this bidding on representation for OPD, Office of Public Defense. Last thing is last meeting was pretty intense. It was very emotional, and I got to say that it was a tough meeting to go through. But through the process, at Mass on Sunday at St. Paul the Apostle, one of our previous planning and building directors or commissioners on that board asked me, he said, did you guys look into what we put in? He retired in 2014, but before he left, he put in the siting criteria for contained animal feeding operation. He says, we already had it all in place that any mega dairy had to go east of 395. So I'm wondering, is that already in place that we should have been looking at? It's called the siting criteria for contained animal feeding operations.
I mean, if I could comment on that,
Yes.
Commissioner. If it is, I don't see a reference to that in our code. And so one of the sort of themes in that meeting is, property rights, right? We're always talking about property rights, and we want to protect those. Well, when someone goes to develop their land, we need to do a good job as an organization through our code to explain to them what the requirements are. And so you heard from the applicant's counsel that he has sort of acquiesced to some requirements that may not have been in our code. And I'll give you an example of one. Our odor and fly program that we have, we are enforcing that with applicants, but it's actually not tied into our code. Our code doesn't say you have to comply with that. We do have an ordinance that we passed or a resolution, but we didn't do the legwork to sort of connect that. So someone that's just looking at our code wouldn't know that that's a requirement, and arguably it's not. So I think we've got to do a better job, informing the public of what the requirements are. We had a lot of really good ideas at that meeting in terms of we want to put, CAFOs on the east side of 395. Well, that needs to be in our code. As you're saying, there may be a resolution somewhere where we had siting criteria. If we do that, we need to, again, put that back into our code and cross-reference it so it's clear to, property owners what they're getting into.
I agree.
And I guess that's a plug. I mean, Wes isn't here right now, but our comprehensive plan is up for amendment. And along with that, we have to amend our development regulations so they're consistent with our comprehensive plan. And, it's, as Kenwick learned with that, facility that was being cited, when someone, vests a permit, that's not the time to be looking at changing your regs. You want to change your regs and plan for the community you have before someone vests a permit, because at that point you're kind of tied. They have the right, as a property owner, to develop that property in accordance with the land development and zoning standards that were in effect when they vested that permit.
Well said, Jeff. And one other thing along that we need to add is with the odor and the flies is we got to bring in the third, and that's the birds, especially in an orchard setting. The birds are going to devastate those orchards. I mean, when those cherries are ripe, they're not going to eat that grain on the ground. They're going to those cherries, and so it's just going to put an undue expense on the neighbors. And that's my whole premise is we got to be conscientious, not of just the landowner that wants to develop, but what's the impact to the people around them. We've got to look at that too. We've got to look at what the impact is, because usually what happens here is the land gets bought up and the dairy just sort of swallows up all the neighboring farms to support their dairy. A dairy of that magnitude takes a lot of ground to create the feed to feed the animals. And like I said, I'm all for dairies. Right now, raising hay, we're hoping that hay prices are going to come up and we're going to get a decent price. That's our livelihood. And so we're reliant on dairies. I want dairies, but we need to look at our plan and make sure we're updating it and being conscientious of birds too in that plan. So the last thing is I'm going to make another cry out. We got to do something on these roadways. Yesterday I was traveling Glade Road South, and some of the equipment was my own that was moving down to do alfalfa, but 3 different groups of equipment moving down Glade Road, and cars are trying to pass. We need pullouts for equipment. Now I know Mr. Erdman has said we don't have any criteria. This has never been done before. Well, let's set the standard. Let's get this done. Let's get some pullouts to make our roadways safer on Glade Road and Taylor Flats, Road 68. If we don't, we're going to be attending a funeral of a loved one. We have to get this done. There's farm equipment moving up and down the roads, and we have to be able to make it safe for the people that are traveling the roads too, especially the young ones that are just getting their driver's license and driving. That's when there will be the, I don't know what's going on, but maybe it's the wind. That must be the wind out there blowing, is what it is. But yeah, we got to make our roadways safe, and I think that we need to move forward with this without looking for state approval, because we can do it on our own and we don't have to pave it. We just need to gravel it so the equipment can move over and let the cars go by. And not just one, we need many up and down the road on both sides of the road. And the equipment needs to pull over. There needs to be some ordinances passed that if they don't, they get ticketed. And I know the Sheriff's Department are being very aware of that, and they ticketed a farmer the other day. So that was good. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. So had my agenda meeting with Mr. Danzel on the agenda. But I also want to comment, I had a discussion with Wes McCart, and he is going over the comprehensive plan. And so now is your time to get involved with that if you want to be concerned about the future growth of Franklin County and different ordinances that are put into place. As an example, before I was in office, I saw there's an area in Franklin County where your roof pitch can only be so much. And I thought, well, why would that matter? Well, what it does is it keeps mobile homes out of that area. So, again, Wes is going through the comprehensive plan. You have concerns on the growth of Franklin County, I encourage you to contact him. I think he said he wanted to do a workshop, is it next week or the week after next, on that. And as far as like the, with the dairy, I mean, those are the issues that need to be brought up and discussed. I do want to make a comment about the birds. Birds don't do anybody any good as far as cherries or dairies. And I mean, I'm not a dairy man, but I will tell you that birds defecate in your feed bunks and it will kill your cattle, especially young cattle. There's nothing more disheartening than walking out and seeing 4 dead animals and one look at you and fall over dead just from bird droppings, is which I experienced about 4 years ago. And so, yeah. Anyways, like I said, get involved. If you have concerns about the future growth, I encourage you again to contact Wes McCart and reach out as he's going through the comprehensive plan. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot to report on this. Representative Chase for the Washington State Legislature is from Spokane. Legislation looking at family law cases receives public hearing. I would encourage you to reach out to Representative Chase and see where he's going with that. And then secondly, Representative Chase explains his win-win act that would create 2 autonomous zones. Now, you remember the autonomous zone in Seattle where the police couldn't go into? Well, Representative Chase is trying to create 2 of those autonomous zones over here on the east side. I think he may be onto something here. If we can't split the state and become our own state, then we need some autonomous zones. I like where he's going with this. So I wanted to report on that also. And then we will have to add one more agenda item. There's one more item here that I forgot to add, but we got that's up next. Okay.
All right, thank you. Moving on, correspondence. Mr.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in your binders, you will see the correspondence tab. In it, you'll find a letter requesting to refill the public records officer position. I believe we should do this as soon as we can, but it would take amending the agenda, as Commissioner Didier mentioned, adding an item and then making a motion and second and all that, approving it. And then next, you will see a letter from the city of Pasco regarding their adoption of what's called a targeted urban area, TUA. They're wondering if we would adopt one as well alongside them. Included, you will see a map of the proposed area as well as some correspondence and some back and forth between myself and Assessor Rosenau, which spells out the implications of doing so as it pertains to the assessor's office. And so that's all I have for correspondence at this time, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Did you want to add your?
Yes. First, we added the resolution 2026 on, oh no, that was in the, that actually was in the consent agenda. The Scribner error was in the consent agenda, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And we removed that. It is an action item, so we need to add that and make a motion for that?
No.
The Scribner error? And then we also, Mr. Chairman, I move that we had,
Commissioner Didier. Yeah, at this point, all we have to do, in my belief, is vote up or down the public records officer. I believe
Yes.
we've done all the other business.
but we haven't got that on the agenda, so I got to add that, correct? Yes. So at this time, I moved to add the hiring of a public records officer for the county.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we add the approval of hiring a public records officer, and it needs to be done as soon as possible, for the public records request that we receive.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Okay.
Moving on to public comment. Is there anyone in the room for public comment? Please come forward, state your name, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
George Dockstuder, Self Landing Road. I've been for the behavioral hospital or whatever you want to call it in Kennewick. But one of the things is if you start, most of these people that are on the street that the police departments for both cities are going to be taking there have no insurance. They don't care about Medicare. They don't care about Medicaid. They don't care about Obamacare. All they care about is their next fix. And we're going to end up paying for it. So I think part of the funding you guys need to do and combine is a once-a-week bus to Olympia and hire it and use part of the funding to send the people that aren't residents of Benton or Franklin County and sending them back to the other side of the mountain. I mean, that'd be better than putting them in the old Kennewick General Hospital, which is going to cost us several $1,000s a day that we're going to end up having to pay for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Well, I really like contracts, and with regard to what George said and the mental health, I think that you should ask for a modified HIPAA form, because once they're behind HIPAA, you can't check anything, and have our auditor audit monthly the people that are being served there and where they're from. If you're going to get an opportunity to make a nice contract, I think that should be part of the contract, because I too am concerned that we're going to be piling in people here from all over, and it is very hard to verify an address. A quick ask on the item that was removed from the consent agenda. It says administration bylaw amendment. I would ask for a little more information as someone from the public, just to know exactly what we're referring to. So I'm going to jump back to constitutional stuff, my favorite subject. In the Washington State Constitution, under Article 1, Section 4 says, the people have the right to petition and of the people peaceably to assemble for the common good and never to be abridged. The U.S. Constitution under Amendment 1 also says that in respect to, I lost my place. Amendment 1 says respect and no law respecting established religion, freedom of speech, press, the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government. That doesn't mean initiatives. In fact, I believe the initiatives were created and used in Washington State, unfortunately, to force taxpayer dollars to pay for abortion. I'm not sure it's constitutional. In both cases that have been reviewed on the Sheriff's Association, not one of them has cited that the commission itself to be appointed to review and oversee the sheriff's office as it's not constitutional. So when we had a Congress in 1860s, we had people trying to come back after the Civil War, and they were removed because they had violated their oath. And there's a senator that was later removed for violating his oath. What you go to court for is to loss of liberty, loss of life, and loss of property. That is a court action, is a governmental action under the Constitution, and governing sovereigns, which are city a little bit, but county, state, and federal, is a government action, and the people's right to petition. We have an apparatus to write these petitions. When Bob Ferguson and even the Supreme Court says that our income is property and property is income, well, all right then, in kind of a sense of humor, I think I'll pay my property taxes and toilet seats because it's all the same, right? Brand new, shiny, even nice bidets. And you can have yourself a nice garage sale and get your real income, which is what it is. Darn it. I'll be back. Talk about contracts with people.
All right, anyone else in the room for public comment?
So when you go on to the Franklin County website, it says open to all, accountable to all, justice for all. And then all the judges and commissioners' names are right below that. This isn't happening. This week, I went to court with a few people in Benton County, and for the first time ever, Commissioner Holt did not allow Mason Pickett to use hearsay as a way to take kids away from a parent, and called him out for filing 2 different protection orders changing the second protection order after the first one was denied. This is the kind of pressure that I am thankful we're able to apply to these court actors that are not following the law. If they're going to put it on their website, they need to start following it. And I'm serious, because I have been going everywhere in this community, and everybody will know what's going on. So if we can't remove them from the bench, I will make sure that no one ever comes into family court. And that means that your juvenile, that a lot of people are profiting from, and a lot of people have jobs at, will no longer be necessary. So I do recommend that people start following the law according to the Constitution, or jobs and positions will no longer be available, not because we don't have the funding for it, but because people will lose trust in the system, and I will make sure of that. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room for public comment?
Good morning. My name is Melissa Good, and I'm a member of this community. And I'm back again today to further discuss the situation with the grooming of my daughter that took place at a Kennewick High School. And I'd like all of you to just maybe put yourselves in my shoes for a moment. Probably almost all of you are parents, grandparents, etc. What would you do and how would you feel if you got a call from a teacher of concern about the fact that there's something weird going on with your daughter and one of her teachers? You sit your daughter down, you talk to her that night, ask an hour's worth of open-ended questions, find out exactly what's going on. During that conversation, you discover that she was initially placed in the seating chart at the very back of this teacher's classroom. He moved her to the very front, right next to him, in time. He started asking her lots of personal questions. Where do you live? What neighborhood? Who are your parents? What do they do? Are they married or divorced? Oh, they're divorced. Why did they get divorced? Who do you live with? All kinds of personal questions that are completely outside school policy as far as teacher-student relationships. He began telling her, "You're my favorite." Yeah, just classic grooming. How in the world has this guy been getting away with this for all these years? Started telling her he wanted to come watch her play volleyball. Then he asked her, "Well, what's your plans for after volleyball?" And she says, "Well, I think I'm going to get a job." And he says, "Well, let me know where and I'll come see you there." Excuse me, what? A grown man. He's married with 2 children. She's a 16-year-old girl. And quite a naive one, honestly. I mean, as naive as a kid can be in public school, I guess, these days, but a well-raised girl. He shows her a picture of himself without a beard. He has a big beard at the time. What do you think? Do I look better with or without a beard? What's your preference? As she's sitting right next to him, he's able to do all of this incognito, right? Because he moved her right next to him. He starts asking or cueing her to place her hand to his and making creepy comments about, "Oh, my hand's so big and yours is so small." What would you all do? Well, I went down to the school the very next morning and I spoke with the vice principal, and the school resource officer was present as well. And she reiterated all of these things back to them. At the end of this conversation/meeting, I had already demanded she would be pulled from this classroom immediately. The vice principal says to her, "Well, we can go ahead and pull you out of that classroom, like your mom says, but just be aware. He might approach you somewhere at school, in the hallway, the cafeteria, something like that, and ask you why you're no longer in his class." What does that tell you by default? He was going to do nothing about this.
Anyone else in the room for public comment? Hearing, seeing none. Is there a need for executive session today?
No, but there is need for a closed session after the meeting concludes.
Okay. All right.
My name's Tara Harlow, and I'm a member of the community. I wanted to kind of follow up on some of the things that I still deal with today after the rape of my daughter by her stepdad, and the inaction by Richland Police Department and Benton County Courts, as well as I attempted to get no contact orders in Franklin County as well because we had property over here at the time. My daughter was diagnosed with psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, and we ended up like scouring the blooming countryside to find doctors that were fit to treat her diagnosis accurately. We dealt with suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, in and out of psychiatric facilities and boarding schools from the 7th grade until she should have graduated high school. She did not. I was told that I was coaching my daughter, but while we're doing all of this, my ex-husband is now my ex-wife. He is now a woman, and during the end of our marriage, he was forced to, it suggested by our marriage counselor, when I didn't know this was going on, to go to Sexaholics Anonymous, which is like a private group you have to be invited to. So, but I was coaching my daughter. Today she's 21 years old and she doesn't drive. She deals with major mental health issues. We have scars that line her forearms from cutting, behavioral issues that will be with us. You know, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, but we deal with this still today, every day. This happened from the ages of 11 to 13. I had nobody to listen to me, and I was put in jail for speaking up about it on Facebook, where I called Andy Miller an accomplice to pedophilia, because I truly believe that's what he is. Thank you.
Closed session.
I think we can just conclude the meeting and then hold a closed session.
All right.
There's no need for executive session?
No, I don't think so. Nothing new.
No need, okay.
Okay. Any other business for the good of the county? Hearing, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.